Okay, welcome to today's broadcast or live stream. And today I'm going to be working on this sculpture that I started during an in-person sculpting workshop. It was really fun, and so we started work on this female figure, and so I'll just keep trekking along on kind of developing things and maybe working on some of the details and things like that. The references for this were I got from postbase.com. They haven't sponsored or anything, but well, they sponsored past videos, but it's just a great place for references. Onyx Love says hi. Hello. Welcome to the live stream. It's been a while. I'm trying to get back into it. And so I'm going to be working on this one. Let's see, I won't be able to show the... Finally caught you alive. Yeah, it's been a sec, so I'm here doing a live stream after a while of not doing them. Let's see, I can't show the references because they're undraped for this one. And but let me see if I can show you guys the name of the pose. So the pose is Becca 406 is the name of the pose on Postbase, and it has 24 images of a turnaround of this pose, and that's what we used for the sculpting workshop that was in person here at my home studio space. That's where I'm sculpting right now, and so if you can hear in the background, there's some crickets and things, and the studio is not soundproof yet. I still need to kind of seal off things and get it going, or get it insulated and sealed, and so it's still definitely a work in progress, a lot to go. But I've started to try to move my live streams and work stuff into this barn studio space. I'm glad to have a space outside of the house to kind of spread my wings and work a little bit. Good evening, sir. After a long time, thanks for your guidance. Last time on my sculpture finals went well, or went is what it says, but probably went well. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad that that something that I did provided some useful information for somebody out there that's interested in sculpting. That's what I try to do. Let's see, let me get the references set up. I just want to make sure that those references don't pop up. So he says, hello, I follow you with great love. I really like how you explain. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate the follow and the support. Let's see, so I have these references, and now I'm just kind of going to be honing in on the details, maybe working on texture a little bit, but really I just wanted to test out the new space. I'm live streaming. My wife helped me get the Wi-Fi set up in this space, so our home Wi-Fi didn't reach, and so we did that on Saturday, and I really appreciate that because now should make doing these live streams a little bit easier and less of a hassle to set things up and things. And so she's really good with setting up that kind of stuff. Technologically, I'm sometimes a little bit challenged. But yeah, if you guys have questions or anything you'd like me to explain, I'll try to kind of say what I'm doing. Like I said, this was as a demo. This was my demo for the AJK figure sculpting workshop, the female figure, and it was a fun experience. There's only one person signed up to do the workshop. Some people, in fact, somebody reached out after and said, "Oh, I just saw that you had your workshop. Sorry, I missed it." So maybe I could have been better at spreading the word about that, but I tried to get the word out. But if you're not following me on Instagram at Andrew Joseph Keith 15, on Instagram and here on my YouTube channel and have the notifications and stuff, then those kind of things might slip through the cracks. So, but if you'd like to at some point travel to Iowa and do one of these in-person sculpting workshops, then just try to keep an eye out for things like that. Thanks to Mrs. Keith, yeah, absolutely, for helping with that. So yeah, it was a good workshop. I think it was a success, and it was fun to sculpt. It was kind of a one-on-one sculpture session with the student, and hopefully he got a lot out of the experience. So he says, "Love the setup." Well, thanks. Yeah, I like this. I like this space. In fact, I want to show off a little bit. Let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see. So I have this giant sheet that I've spread out for the lighting, and the lights are just cheap shop lights that I purchased a while ago, and I used for the softbox upstairs. And then I just put them up on the roof, but I didn't like how they looked by themselves. It just looks like a garage or like Walmart, where the lighting is very artificial. But when you spread a sheet over top to diffuse the light, then I think it makes it look really nice. And so I'm having fun with the lighting. This year we're going to have a stone carving challenge for me, but I hope it will be good. Yeah, stone carving is awesome. I'm working on the stone sculpting course right now. It's kind of tricky when you're an artist. You have to really guard your time and be on top of your schedule, because I've been working on that course for a couple of months now. But you know, if other things get in the way, I can go a week without, or a couple weeks without editing and filming a new lesson, and then I get behind on my schedule, and I'd really like to have that out pretty soon, but most of the lessons need to be finished and ready to go before I release that course. And so I am working on that, a stone sculpting course that should help people that are interested in that. Can you show it again, please? Oh yeah, talking about the lights. Yeah, this is the light setup. So it's just a sheet that I've spread out, and I've actually nailed it to the rafters up here to the ceiling, stretched out, and then on the other side of the sheet, hung from the ceiling, are just inexpensive shop lights that I got online. I got like 10 of them for $100 or something like that. They're not too much when it comes to light, but I think that sheet really helps soften the light and make it look nice and professional. And lighting makes a big difference when you're sculpting. So if you have a space where the lighting isn't great, then maybe try setting up some softer light, or more directional, be more intentional with your lighting setup and change some things around and see if that helps. I know when I was stone sculpting in Loveland, Colorado, they have, it's basically just outdoors, and then you have a, what is it called? Like a gazebo setup, or a temporary like tent that they put up, so the walls are open, and so the white lighting is really coming from a bunch of different directions except from above, because that one's blocked, and it makes it really difficult to differentiate between the forms, especially when you're working in marble. And so I found that at night, when I could shine a light that was more directional and more and be more intentional with that lighting, I was really able to see the forms better. So having a good lighting setup is really helpful. It says it looks nice. Good thing you're handy with your hands. Yeah. Try to be handy. If women don't find you handsome, they can at least find you handy. That was a saying from an old show, the Red Green Show. I would watch when I was little. If women don't find you handsome, they can at least find you handy. Now I'm just gonna start laying in pieces of clay to smooth out the texture, kind of fill in some of these inside areas. That's a good one. Hello, sir. How are you? I'm doing well. Welcome to the live stream. If you guys have questions or topics of discussion you'd like me to go over, please let me know. Oh, there's a sale going on right now. So if you're interested in any of my sculpting courses, I recommend starting with the Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course. It's a great kind of starter course for people. And that's on sale right now. So the summer sale, use code SUMMERSALE. There's links in the video description for that, and you can join those courses and start learning during your summer. And now's a great time to get those courses. There's also a portrait sculpting course and a hand sculpting course. And a stone sculpting course is in the works, but it's not out yet. But those other courses are a great place to start if you're interested. Trying to get it to keep it from looking a little bit muddy. Right now the glutes are not looking super soft. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see maybe a little bit better what I'm doing. Somebody's asking, sir, why don't you sculpt any comic characters? I did a sculpture of, what have I done? I guess I did Venom a long time ago when I was in college, like a superhero. I've done like the Hulk a couple times, but I don't know. I guess I prefer other, like if I'm going to spend the time doing a sculpture, I'd rather not do a replica of somebody else's idea, somebody else's concept or artwork. I think I'd rather do like biblical characters. I did a sculpture of Samson in a recent video. That was fun. And or sculptures of like religious sculptures of figures from the Bible or Christ, or things that are centered on the family, motherhood, fatherhood. Those things just I feel are more worth devoting time and effort to, and it's a lot of time and effort that comes into sculpting, so I figure it's better to do something meaningful rather than something trivial. I know a lot of people like comics. For some people have become like almost like a religion, people that are really obsessed with those types of things, but I just don't find those things as interesting, or even just as the human figure kind of following in that figurative tradition. is something that I enjoy, that I'd rather do than try to copy somebody else's fictional character. But to each their own. If that's what interests you, just sculpt what you're really interested in. But you have to be interested, because sculpting is really time consuming and takes a lot of mental energy. And so if you don't have something that really lights your fire and that you're passionate about, then it becomes too easy to just give up on it. Is Venom your favorite villain? Well, he's more of an anti-hero. He's more of a... no, I guess I just thought that at the time the Venom movie, the first Venom movie had come out. I didn't see it at that time, but it was just kind of popular. So I was like, oh, I'll just sculpt something that's kind of popular right now. It wasn't like I have an affinity for the specific character, that kind of anti-hero. I just thought, oh, this is popular right now, I'll do something like that, which is almost never the way to go. If you're gonna do something, do it because it's something that you're interested in or passionate about. Don't do it just because other people are, or it's popular. I guess maybe you can find trends and then go viral because of those trends, but I guess that's just, after having tried that a few times, I just figure, I'd rather do things that I find more worthwhile. So I'm kind of just trying to remove the hand texture of me laying in pieces of clay by hand and smooth things out using one of my favorite tools, just a simple, I think it's called a dab tool, D-A-B, dab tool. And this came from a cheap tool set that I got on eBay a long time ago. I don't know if they have this exact one, but it was like 11 or 12 tools for 15 bucks or something like that. And I'm kind of smoothing out the transitions between forms, especially in areas where it's going to be very smooth. Here I'm looking at the reference image, and the transition between the obliques to the pelvis on the backside to the gluteus medius right here is a very soft transition, so I want to make sure that I make that quite soft. And this one, the sculpture, I don't know if you can see if it's very clear. I don't know if it's very clear, but I started with a gray clay. Let me move up, see if you can see. A gray speckled granite clay. Here you can see some of it right there. And I was sculpting with that for the first bit, and then I switched to a different color clay. And it's kind of a cool effect. I thought it turned out really interesting when you have one color and then you build on top of it, and you can see the changes that you make with the color in front. So that might be something that I'll do in the future as a demo or something like that, where you can kind of see, oh, that's the structure, and it's maybe in a lighter clay, and then the clays get darker with each sculpting session, so that I can kind of show that progression between sessions. I think that would be a cool way to demo the sculpting process. How much time will it take to learn? How much time will it take to learn as a newbie sculptor? It just says a newbie sculpt. If you want to learn sculpting, it just depends on how good you want to be. I'd say generally, if you want to become a great artist, it's kind of a lifelong endeavor. But you can become proficient, probably better than 99% of the population, just by practicing an hour a day for a year and then you'd probably be better if you follow some instruction. You're not just blindly sculpting, but you're like watching some sculpting tutorials online and then trying to apply what you learn to your sculpture and actually seeking out that learning. And if you do that, I'd say an hour a day for a year, what is that, 365 hours, you can do a decent amount in that time. But to become in that top percent for sculptors, so like the average person, the vast majority of people are not good at sculpting, but for those that are interested in sculpting and sculpt, if you want to be in the top percentage in that group, then you have to dedicate more time, obviously. I think they say 10,000 hours is to become a master at anything, and I'd say that that's probably about accurate. I don't know if I'd consider myself a master at this point. I'm just learning like everybody else and trying to share what I learn. Very good tip for artists. Don't chase trends, make art that you love. Yeah, I think that's generally good advice. I mean, it's something you hear a lot, but it's hard to, you like see somebody that does something that's maybe a little bit less skillfully done than what you do, and it's of something popular and it gets, you know, millions of views, and you're like, oh, I could do something like that with that IP, and then you try it, and it just, whenever I've done that, it just doesn't seem to work out. Doesn't seem to go viral. But I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm not great at YouTube, the game of YouTube, and it's not something I excel at. If I was really good at it, then my channel would be a lot bigger, because I've been doing this for like 10 years. And so after 10 years, if you've been consistently posting videos and your channel's not very big, you know, there's probably a lot you need to learn. So there's probably a lot I need to learn. I mean, there's definitely a lot I need to learn about that side. But that's just as an artist, I just feel like I don't want to spend my time doing things I'm not passionate about. Which I guess is how every artist feels. Sir, do you sell your clay models? This one I probably will. This one is I'm doing it in Sculpting, a polymer clay, and I have a sculpture show coming up later this year, so maybe I'll have it as a one-of-a-kind sculpture piece. This one I probably, maybe I'll list it around the $1,000 range for purchase, which for a sculpture this size, if it was bronze, I could charge quite a bit more, but maybe I'll do a little bit more than 1,000. We'll see how I'm feeling when I get close. But just because it's a polymer clay, it's not bronze or stone, so I usually charge a little bit less for those. But yeah, I've sold sculptures before, commissioned sculptures and things like that. Switch angles a little bit for my references. Let's work from another angle. So the workshop consisted of I think it was 5 3-hour sessions. So it went for 3 days. We did 2 sessions, the first day 2 sessions, the second day, and then 1 session. And it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so that's how much time I've spent on this sculpture so far. What is that? 5 times 3, 15 hours. 15 hours so far. And we'll see. With a sculpture, you can spend hundreds of hours, but I'll probably try to finish this up with a couple more sessions. Just kind of go through like I'm doing and give a consistent texture on it, and then call it good for this sculpture. So he says, Sir, I'm here from India, and people here don't see sculpting as a prominent art and make a living out of it. Yeah, well, being an artist is difficult in wherever you live. It's always difficult to monetize creativity, something creative, because there's a lot of people that want to be creative and not a lot of buyers for creative stuff. So it's always going to be difficult no matter where you are. So, and I'd say there's nothing wrong with building a skill that's more marketable, so something that you find in your area that people are just looking for, whether that's construction or, people almost always need houses or mechanics, fixing things, or like whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with building a marketable skill and then sculpting as a kind of a side hustle, a side passion. But you have to be disciplined no matter what. So whether you are doing sculpting full-time or whether it's just part-time, you have to set aside the time and be disciplined in valuing that creative time if you're going to be successful. Otherwise, just have it be a hobby, have it be something that you do on occasion, but you don't try to monetize. If you have to motivate yourself, like you're like, oh, I should do sculpting, but you're not self-motivated, then it's really hard to make it as an artist or as a sculptor. It has to be something where you're so driven, you love it so much that if you did anything else, you'd just be miserable. That's kind of the situation I was in. But I wouldn't recommend it if you could do something that's easier to monetize, because monetizing creativity is difficult. Whether it's, being a YouTuber or being whatever creative thing, it's always tricky to monetize. Somebody else says, somebody else who's also from India, Sir, I'm from India and you're my ideal. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's see, I'm trying to, so as I'm developing these forms, I also want to make sure that I'm keeping the anatomy in mind, and if I erase some anatomy, like here, I felt like I pushed in a little bit too much in an area and kind of erased some of the anatomy. So I want to establish it again. Somebody says, hi Andrew, love your channel. Since you mentioned it, do you also work in stone? Seems like that'd be a completely different workflow to clay. Always amazes me how the masters did it. No room for error. Yeah, I do work in stone. A lot of my stone stuff has been abstract. I'm trying to change that and get more into representational stone work. But stone is difficult. It's a very challenging medium. Like you said, it's less forgiving. Mistakes are a bigger deal in stone, because in clay you can usually just add, add some more clay back or switch things up. It's very quick to fix errors. In stone, you have to work so that your errors are not damaging to the piece. So usually in clay, I recommend people sculpt very thin and then slowly push out the forms, sculpt by adding clay. In stone, you do the opposite. You sculpt very fat. You want if you're doing a figure, it should be a very fat figure until you are comfortable with where things are, and then you slowly push in. So it's kind of the opposite, but it's like if you've ever drawn with white charcoal or white chalk on a black background and tried to shade realistically. It's kind of like that. It's like reverse of what you were doing, but if you have a good understanding of drawing, it's not super difficult to kind of switch and work in by subtracting versus adding. But yeah, and the time investment is a lot greater in stone. Moving material around takes a lot more time. So it's, but I feel like a stone sculpture, I can charge more for it without, feeling that I'm overcharging. Even if it's a simple design, if it's well done, I feel like, oh, that's a sculpture that deserves to, that I'm comfortable charging more for. Knowing what you know, what do you think it takes to be an artist? Would you still pick it as a profession? Like I said, if you just kind of like art, you'd like to do it professionally, but you don't know if you can, I'd say, I'd say unless you'd be miserable doing anything else, just do something else professionally, because art is difficult. It's a difficult road. I'd say it's just for those who are so passionate and so driven to create artistically that they just have to try to make it work. I was in that category, but it's been difficult. It's difficult to support a family, difficult to, and I even went, I kind of went a different route than most artists. Most artists go to the route of galleries or other things. I went the route of online education because I liked the idea of teaching and helping others create art. I find that to be rewarding as well. And so, maybe other artists would say something different. But there's a female sculptor who, Laura Lee Bradshaw, who was saying, I was asking her advice for beginner sculptors, and she says, well, do it for 10 years and don't expect to make any money from it, and then you'll know if you want to do it professionally or not. And it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of a depressing thing to say, but I'd say that it's, for me, it was probably about accurate that I was doing it for maybe not 10 years, but probably like five or 6 years before the first paycheck from sculpting came in. So, it's tough. What do you think about digital sculpting? I haven't tried it too much. I've done just a little bit of it. I just like working with my hands. So I'm kind of traditional in that way. I like the traditional aspect of figurative sculpting. Doing something in space, even if the clay is newer. We have newer types of clay, but you're still participating in a tradition that people have done for thousands of years. And so it's I find it more of a rich tradition working with clay or stone than digital. Digital feels kind of, well, I guess artificial to me. So I haven't devoted a lot of time to learning it. I see the benefits of, it's easier to 3D print, and maybe you can, it's helpful when you can just automatically copy one side of the sculpture to the other side and things like that. But I find traditional sculpting to be more interesting and enjoyable and impressive. But I have friends and other sculptors that do digital, and I like their work. Hi, greetings from Indonesia. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. Oh, wow. Got India, Indonesia, people from all over during these live streams. That's cool. So he says, that's interesting. An interesting comparison. Never thought about it that way. Thanks for your thoughts. Well, yeah, there's a little bit of a delay, and so I don't know what that's referring to. Maybe the subtractive work of stone versus additive of clay. Sounds like parallel ways, carving or sculpting. Yeah. Do your friends post your artworks? Well, the friend I'm thinking of is Eric Sosa. Eric Sosa is a digital sculptor who he reached out to me online and happens to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so I posted something about the church, and he's just like, hey, I'm another sculptor that's a member of your religion, and so that's kind of how I met him. But he does comic stuff, so we talked about comics a little bit, but his comic stuff is really impressive, very fun anatomy, very like well thought out anatomy studies and things like that. Really impressive work. So if you're interested in digital sculpting, you might check him out. Eric Sosa on Instagram is where I found him. I don't know if he has a YouTube channel. I'll have to look. Doing this was, let me show you guys the base on this. It was fun because we just nailed the base into a board. So there's a long nail that goes down this leg that we just nailed, and then there's a board under this. So the base here, we just covered that second board in clay. So we nailed one board into this bottom baseboard, and then a large nail here, and then we wrapped some wire around that, and then used stiff wire for the rest of the figure, built out the inside with aluminum foil, and then added the polymer clay on top of that. And it was a fun process, and by the end of this sculpting process, if you do it, then you just have a sculpture that's ready to be displayed, and the base and everything look nice. And so I thought that was a cool aspect of what we were doing, and it's fun. Oh, the battery's running low on the camera. Let me get this charging. Let's see if I can. Yeah, if did it go? If the camera shuts off, then I guess that's it for this live stream. We'll see if it goes for a little bit longer. I've plugged it in, so hopefully that'll stay on. Yeah, I enjoy traditional art so much. And as I'm illustrating my book, I don't plan to give it a digital or completed look. But I don't think that there will be much of a market for it as a beginner. For a book, yeah, I don't know. I'd say do it. You know, don't be discouraged to the point where you don't try something. Try it, but yeah, I don't want to discourage anybody. So don't be discouraged by what I'm saying. But just don't expect things to be easy, I guess. And then if it is easy, you'll be like, oh yeah, that I should have expected it to be easy. But if it's not, then you'll be able to just keep at it and keep working and growing and developing as an artist. That's the main thing. I follow you from Romania. I just started out, but I've made some miniature sculptures for my works. I've followed you and learned from you. Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Glad to hear that some of the stuff that I put out has helped. Again, the sculpting course is on sale now. The figure sculpting course and the portrait sculpting course, all those courses are on sale. So if you've thought about it and wanted to get those, now's a great time. Summer sale over at Proca.com. And there's also, if you're not ready to invest in the full courses, you just want some free stuff, then there's also free PDFs that are assignment checklists that you can download and start sculpting for free. Go over the free lessons over at the Proco 3D YouTube channel and check those off as assignments. And so there's no excuse if you don't have the funds to purchase the courses, but you want to learn, then that's what the free stuff is for. So I hope you'll check that stuff out. I should specify beginner, author, illustrator, not a beginner artist. Oh, okay. So an author, yeah, I haven't got much into authoring. I've done some ebooks, but I haven't done physical books. Sounds like you're interested in physical books, so I can't really speak to that too much. But, there is ways to do it and ways to market it. I think you just have to find your audience and then build that audience. And then share with them why what you're creating will be helpful to them or be interesting or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I've come to realize that my drawing background gives me some insight on anatomy and body composition. I went to art school for animation and was introduced to sculpting and marketing and making maquettes. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's drawing and sculpting definitely overlap quite a bit. In fact, Edward Lantieri, who writes one of my favorite sculpting books, Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure, it's one I've recommended before on the channel. He says that a student of sculpture should draw as much as, if not more than, a student of painting. So he really thought that drawing was a useful skill for sculptors, and his book is legendary among sculptors. It's really a classical book that's worth looking into. Not too expensive either. You can find it for probably under $10 if you get it used or even new. I think it's public domain, I think, at this point. Hope it stays on, says somebody. Yeah, we'll see. The battery's still blinking, but I plugged it in, so hopefully it stays on. If it shuts off, then that'll be it for today's session. Polymer clay has a little bit of like sponginess to it, especially when you built up large areas that are soft. So when you push it around, other areas will move around a little bit. I don't like it as much as the Chavant NSP that I usually work with, but it does have the advantage of you don't have to make a mold and cast it, which is a big advantage. Mold making is a pain, and I'm not particularly great at it. Though I should get better at it, because that's like a major part of being a sculptor. It's just being able to duplicate your work. Right now, what's the time here? Let's see, it's 1:24 in the afternoon here. So it's getting close to lunchtime. Then I don't know if it's showing up on the camera, but I'm using Sculpting medium, but I use Sculpting firm underneath, and the grays are just slightly different. So you can kind of see where I don't know if you can see that color difference between those if it shows up. Sometimes it's hard to see those on YouTube with its compression and everything. But to me, I notice. So there's the speckled gray underneath, and then darker gray, and then I'm going back with a lighter gray right now. Guys, hear those crickets? They're loud in this studio space. Hi, hello, I'm a young artist doing IB visual art and a huge fan of yours. I took your piece, Adam, if that's the name, as the model. If that's the right name as the model, could you please tell me more about the inspiration and meaning. Let's see, Adam. Oh, is that the torso sculpture? So I've done, yeah, I think that's probably the torso. Well, it was, originally just a torso study. Oh, it's time? You guys ready? Yeah. Okay, I'm coming. Let me close things up and I'll come, okay? Can you get my my swim stuff ready?
Okay.
Okay, well I'll have to talk about that later. Yeah, it was just a torso study to begin with, and then I did a female one as well, and I thought Adam and Eve was an appropriate kind of symbolism for those torsos. So that was just how those came about as torso demos. But yeah, I really liked how those turned out, Adam and Eve, just torso studies. All right, I have to, somebody's saying, where do you sell your sculptures? Usually through Instagram, people reach out to me. So you can reach out if you're interested in any of my work, and that's where I generally sell them. Somebody says, bye sir, have fun swimming. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, no problem. I'll see you guys later. Be sure to check out the links and get those sculpting courses if you're interested in learning, and that really helps me out. And as always, I hope you guys can stay creative and stay productive, and I'll see you in another live stream or another video hopefully soon. See you guys around.